Welcome to Unfractured, a Christ-centered action plan for cultural change. I'm the author, Skot, a church leader, public speaker, and global diversity strategist.
And I'm Eric, a documentary filmmaker raising an adopted family.
And I'm inspired to learn more about Skot's perspectives.
Together, we'll explore diversity, scripture, and American history from a Christ-centered perspective, revealing the beauty of God's mosaic, one conversation at a time.
To begin the series, I asked Skot to give some context for why he wrote Unfractured and to explain the fundamental principles of his Christ-centered action plan. For me, the goal of these conversations is to dive deeper. I wanted to know more about how Skot's experience led him to the principles in the book. As a dad raising black sons, so many of my assumptions were shattered when I began to see the world through the eyes of my boys. I have often sought Skot's advice. This insight has been great for me. I hope it is for you as well. Hey, Skot.
Hey, what's going on? This is pretty amazing. This is a pretty fancy thing I'm looking through.
So for those that can't see, you and I are here in the same room. This isn't a Skype call.
Right, that's right.
This isn't a video chat.
Real.
We're here talking to each other. What are we doing here, Skot? What is this format all about?
We want to establish a new way of talking about this whole thing around race and ethnicity. Mm-hmm. And there's some things that I believe I believe God shared with me around a new way of talking about it. And I love the fact we're doing it like this because this is where real change can happen. When you talk one-on-one, and sure you can talk in front of the bigger audiences or at churches and things, but I really think at the end of the day, this is about having coffee with a brother or coffee with a sister and saying, this is what my heart is.
If you can give the audience and the viewers a little bit of context for who you are and sort of what puts you in a position to have some authority on this topic, obviously ethnically,
Sure.
But there's all these other reasons that this is your world. Can you talk about kind of your background a little bit for me?
So, it's kind of funny because I think part of it is me being a part of a military family. Part of my childhood, I was raised in a little village called Tongdushan, Korea. So, and what was cool is that because it's funny, at the time, my stepdad and mom said, hey, we're moving to Korea. Your dad's being stationed over there. I'm like, I didn't even know what a Korea was, first of all. Like, okay, a country. Okay, I got it. But we moved there, and my parents made a conscious decision to not live on the base. We lived in the village with everybody else, Eric. It was really so cool. And so it's really funny. I was raised in a way where we just had all different types of people in our house, The music that played was very different. Some of my relatives would be considered black hippies at some point in time. And then some were really around kind of the Black Power movement as well. And I lived and loved in all that. And I was always... I could walk in any room, essentially, in any conversation. They're like, come on, sit down, Scotty. What do you think about that? And it was really God kind of opening up part of who he made me to be, right? Because I'm so comfortable in those rooms. In fact, I'm more comfortable when there are people in the room that don't look like me, don't think like me. I love that room.
Why is that?
Because, here's the thing. I kind of go back to like the Revelation 7 and 9. It says every tribe, every nation, every tongue. And I just think it feels more like heaven. I just really think it just feels like more real. And that's why when I get into rooms where everybody is like me, it's like I'm okay with it. But I tell you, there's something being in a room where there's just kind of United Nations type thing going on.
Yeah.
I just love the people and their backgrounds, their foods, and how they talk about it. And if you're there just as human beings, and there's no political agenda, there's no denominational stuff going on, you can just relate to human beings, there's something beautiful that happens. And I notice that when I'm there in that space, I don't know, there's another level of just awareness, of excitement, of emotionalism when I get in rooms like that, because I'm like, this feels like something that is supposed to be.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me because it feels like what you're trying to achieve in the book is to create that for other people.
It is, Eric.
Right? How do I put this into words and help other people recognize the value of this? Because you get to see something, or you've got a window into something based on your life experience and the constructs And I feel the same way from my own
Yes.
life experience, my own
Yes.
travel, my own family dynamic.
Yeah.
We kind of are in that same boat where I think like
Yes.
we've seen what it is like
Yes.
to be in these diverse environments and the value that's created there and the joy.
Yes.
And then you sort of are almost like, you look around and you're like almost confused. You're like, hey, why doesn't everybody else
That's right.
catch on to this?
That's
Let's
right.
expose it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, to me, it's like, I say those rooms are like breathing pure oxygen.
Huh.
Because when I walk into them, I'm like, oh, this is it right here. When I walk out, I know that I've been there, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people, it's kind of like when your palate, like I love hot food. I was raised eating peppers and hot sauce and stuff. Your palate is set, man. I was wrecked because of one of my aunts. She's like, we're going to enjoy hot sauce and peppers together. So my Aunt Anita, we share that, right? And so I think it's one of those things when your palate is set culturally, you're always craving that taste again.
Right.
You know, you want to get back into that room again, you know, and that's why I think for me, diversity and work was so natural because I'm craving those rooms. So that's one part of it. All the while, God was still saying, okay, now I'm tugging on you. So then I was ordained as a pastor in 2010. And then I get involved in diversity management, right, with companies. But all the time, man, this little thing in the back of my mind always says, you know, well, this company's getting it really, really right. I'm like, but where's the family? Mm-hmm. And I'm always thinking about the family. When I say family, I don't mean my wife and my kids, although they're a part of that. I'm talking about the family that God put me in when I made a decision to have a relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. I was compelled to write this because I just think there's a better version of us that the world has not seen. I think we're too quiet. I think we're very reactive right now. But I actually think that I know we have the answer, right? But we're going to have to, it's not about what we say. Now I really think it's time to act. Mm-hmm. It's time to reflect something different in society by our actions one to another. And therein lies so much credibility.
When people see a book that is about a topic that probably for most people has baggage attached to it, whether you want to admit it,
That's
whether
right.
you don't want to admit it, whether
Right.
you're white, whether you're black,
That's right.
whether you're a minority,
That's
whether
right.
you're a majority,
Yeah, right.
ideologically different.
Yes.
It's got all these strings attached because the cultures around us have attached strings. Mm-hmm. I think that you do a great job in the book of breaking down what is required to be able to act. You put it as maturely, right? We need a certain amount of understanding,
Yes.
a certain amount of vulnerability,
Yes.
transparency. We got to talk about some stuff. Obviously, knowing you, being friends with you,
Yes.
that obviously takes it to another level. But it's really important for people to understand that we're going to go on a journey that it's a tough one. It's not an easy journey, but it's one designed completely out of love.
Yes,
and that's the thing
absolutely.
that I just want to emphasize about you and knowing you, that I see it in every word.
Yeah.
And I want that audience to understand that although we're having, like you say, family talk.
Yeah.
Right? I love that.
Yeah, it is. It's family talk.
Right? Although we're doing that, we are doing it with the objective of healing, with the
yeah.
objective of unity. Can you talk to that a little bit? What is your
Yeah.
heart for this audience?
You know, the heart for the audience is that it's like God loves it when his family acts like family.
Yeah.
Right? So this is not one of punitive, kind of a finger pointing. This is very restorative. It's saturated in the grace of God and in the love of God, because you can't have healing apart from the love of God, who is love, by the way. So we're actually going down this path together, really as all of us are works in progress. This is a place that is redemptive in nature, the atmosphere. This is a place where you're loved. This is a place where you belong. You're not just welcome here, you belong here. You belong at God's table. Again, and this is family talk. Yeah, it might get a little rough at times, but isn't that the dynamic of family? So when you actually achieve something as a family, you can high five each other. You're all better. We know that not talking about it is actually a debilitating trait of unhealthy families. Well, I'm calling us a healthy family. Unfractured is a Christ-centered action plan for cultural change. You can learn more about the Unfractured book, discussion guide, and an ecosystem of resources that explore God's beautiful mosaic at getunfractured.com.